Hi, I'm Harry Forbes from ARC Advisory Group. I'm here at the 2017 Orlando Forum. My guest is Gareth Noyes. Gareth is the CTO and Chief Strategy Officer of Wind River. Gareth, welcome to Orlando.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
It's nice to have you. This is the second year you guys have been here as a sponsor of the forum.
Right.
And I really think a lot of change that we've been talking about in the sessions here has been in your alley a little bit, especially ExxonMobil keynoting the last 2 years, talking about their plans to change the way their downstream plants, refineries, and chemical plants are controlled. Can you just give us a quick perspective on how you see Wind River fitting into that?
Right. So Wind River's legacy has been in building intelligent things and devices, so PLCs and DCS systems. And that's been our legacy. But as you start connecting things together and wondering where intelligence is going to reside and how you extract value from the data, then the architecture starts shifting. And so one thing we've seen with ExxonMobil is the need to start virtualizing some edge control systems to take costs out of infrastructure, to increase operational efficiency, and open up some innovation in the infrastructure.
Have you seen, certainly, especially the continuous or hydrocarbon processing industries are not on the cutting edge of these technological developments for very good reasons. What about other industries that have faster uptake, specifically, say, in the last couple of years? What are you seeing in terms of industries like telecommunications for your products?
Yeah, well, I think you've hit on a good one there, Harry. I think the telco sector has traditionally built bespoke equipment and custom software solutions. And that industry was also facing some innovation and cost challenges, and they've recently moved to a virtualization architecture also. In the networking space, they call this network functional virtualization. Mm-hmm. And that's an area where we've been building some very unique products to enable virtualization in those spaces.
Well, people have talked about that for a while. Can you kind of give me a view of what is the stage of deployment and development in telecommunications and what you expect going forward for this? Because this is very similar to the kind of technology you're putting in or planning for process automation, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the initial uptake has certainly been with edge devices in telco, so CPE equipment. Mm-hmm. But more and more there are field trials with core networking applications where we see some of that virtualization happening. And I think that's a similar sort of trend that we're going to see in the process automation space, where we're going to see initially the virtualization of some control functions, but move into more mainstream application development within the process automation sector.
One thing that I personally think about the way that these systems are likely to be deployed, especially as the virtualization takes over more and more of the process automation, is, as you know, ExxonMobil has talked about having smaller modularity controllers and applications. The present systems tend to have a pretty fair number of applications and function blocks, if you will, encapsulated in a single processor. And even if you virtualize that, you don't get rid of that problem. As you scale these kind of systems into a virtualized environment, what's the ability to make these things smaller, to make the application smaller and smaller, which is kind of, I think, what they want?
I think it is. I think there are a couple of aspects. First of all, you want to maintain the functional safety and the fail-safe systems, and so there's always going to be intelligence and autonomy right at the edge. So mm-hmm. I think, as we saw in some of the keynotes, when systems fail, you want them to fail safely. So that edge intelligence will reside. But more and more, it's about trying to figure out where the appropriate level of intelligence should be in your system. And increasingly, we see that as we sort of maintain the I/O on the devices themselves, but move some of the processing and business applications to a high level of abstraction in the stack, then we can extract a lot more value, get much more access to the data, and hopefully deliver a lot more tangible business benefits as well.
One final question is, in Tuesday's presentation, the ExxonMobil initiative looked to kind of a 2 or 3 year schedule downstream in terms of doing a prototype and then doing more field deployment systems, so a longer term schedule. Mm-hmm. As you look at a longer term schedule like that, what are the kind of things that you expect to be adding into, like your Titanium server product? because certainly that's not going to stay static over that amount of time.
Right. So we have some very fundamental features in Titanium Server around low latency and high availability, system manageability and orchestration, which I think are going to be very relevant to this sector. As we roll out deployments this year and work with companies like Exxon to prototype systems, I think understanding what the specific industry characteristics and maybe protocols, networking protocols, adaptation layers, what sort of algorithms we can accelerate and optimize. So learning really based on the use cases that we're seeing in the market. And I think that's the benefit of rolling this out over a couple of years, is that we can learn as we go.
Well, I think it's going to be very exciting, and I have to say, frankly, I can't think of a program in recent years that has generated as much interest as this. And maybe I'll ask one more question in terms of the continuous process is one domain, the manufacturing, factory automation is a different one. Have you thought about applying the same sorts of technologies in the factory automation space, and what are your thoughts about that?
Right, that's certainly something we're looking at, and I think the continuous process space is a good space to start, because some of the timing characteristics, for instance, are somewhat less stringent than in continuous processes. But certainly the notion of abstracting and virtualizing some of the control functions and applying those benefits to optimizing your manufacturing supply chain is something that the discrete sector is very, very interested in, and will be looking for opportunities to deploy the same technology there as well.
Well, I look forward to hearing about how this goes in the future, but we'll certainly probably have more to talk about next year as this program moves forward and your product and your involvement in the program moves forward.
Thank you. It's an exciting time, and thank you for having me, Harry.
It's great. I'll see you again, and thanks for coming to Orlando.
Great, thank you.
I'm Harry Forbes from ARC Advisory Group, and my guest has been Gareth Noyes, who is the CTO and Chief Strategy Officer of Wind River. Thank you.